Steam has retired or banned a whole mess of games and they're blaming payment processors. But I worked in this industry, so I actually know a fair bit about this. So turn the volume up, let's talk about it. Who'd have thought 8 years working in the banking sector and then 6 years working for a payment processor would come in handy for a gaming channel? So at least that wasn't all a complete waste of time, but I've got a bit of news, I guess. We can talk about this. So usually we obviously just cover games here. We just do shooters and racing games. And then I've done some censorship videos just because Australia were kind of landed the ban hammer. And this has all come across. I've read a fair few articles of Steam banning games and people being quite angry about censorship without the real reason why. I just see like a lot of comments of like, why would a payment processor care about porn? So strap in. I hope this isn't too boring, but it should give everyone just a wide overview of why this is the case. So the short of the short is chargebacks. Chargebacks, for those that don't know, is when you go to refund through your card provider. So you may have bought something online. The main version or the reason why chargebacks exist is you may buy something online, say it didn't show up, but the item was delivered. But by the business's point of view, the item was actually delivered. So they're saying, no, we're not refunding you the money. So you'd go to your bank and dispute that transaction because you still bought something and you haven't received those goods. It may have been a porch pirate stole it. It may have been just not delivered by the delivery company or the courier. Whatever reason, you still are out of pocket. Visa, MasterCard, back in the day when everyone was trying to when they were trying to move everyone from cash and to, boost e-commerce because then they could make a lot more money, wanted to have full consumer confidence that you would receive that product. So they have a chargeback system, which is just a disputed transaction system. But more often than not, it goes in the customer's favor, a chargeback. I think it's about 87%. Like it needs to be, the business needs a clear evidence on that they definitely got that product and it was them that ordered it. And that can be very difficult to do. Like if you think about it, if you just own a brick and mortar store and someone says, I never got this, you don't really have any proof outside of the delivery service saying we delivered it to them to say that, no, they directly got it and they're using it. So, yeah, it is quite difficult to prove that someone made that transaction too, and also it was delivered to them. So, and this isn't a loophole to just now go to the bank and do a bunch of chargebacks. If you start doing this on the regular, then the bank will start pinging you and realize that all of it is fraud, and you don't really want to be charged with fraud. So how does this factor into porn and games? Well, the big thing is a lot of people, when that bank statement comes and their wife goes through it and they see a subscription to sluttynurses.com, they deny it and they say they didn't do it, even though we could tell. I used to work in counter fraud, and then, like I said, I worked for a payment processor as well. You could tell it was their IP, that it was definitely that person, but there's no way to tell that it was 100% them on that computer. So the chargeback, even though there was a bit of a back and forth, would go through. So this meant payment providers had to stop giving merchant facilities to the porn industry. Reason being is that if the company doesn't have the money to cover the chargeback, then the bank or the payment processor then fits that bill. Prime example of that is during COVID, my wife and I were going to go to Europe. One of our hotels went under and went into administration and said no refunds. I said, hey, go do a chargeback. It took 90 days, but she got her money back. Just because the bank will then have to cover that. Whoever was their merchant facilitator at the time would have to cover that. So just know that if you do pay something on a debit or credit card and the business does go broke, just do a chargeback. It might take a long time to get that money, but you will get that money because you've still paid for a service, and Visa, MasterCard want to make sure that you've got that ability to refund. I think there's other card providers too, like Amex and Discover. They do that as well. So more and more, ever since about 2010, it became very, very difficult for adult services and adult websites to get a payment processing facility. There are some special ones out there that handle your Pornhubs and all of those subscription services in the world. The fees for that are astronomical because they need to cover their base. And that is, a bunch of businesses that can go down because of the amount of chargebacks that come through. There's also a lot of manual investigation of chargebacks. So if you're getting a lot of them, then it's a lot of work. So that's another thing that the payment providers are trying to lower is just so they don't have to have as many staff just doing pretty grunt admin work to see if you actually did the actual service or bought the actual product. So we're on the same page, right? So how it equates to here is that WorldPay, I believe, is Steam's payment provider. I think they've got two others, or for like South America, and they're sort of trialing another one. But WorldPay is their big one. It makes sense. They need to be able to take payments in multitude of different currencies. And they are a marketplace, which is a very, very weird system when you think about giving them a merchant facility or a payment processing facility. Because technically they're not really selling a product, are they? Like, they're responsible for it. They're responsible for the delivery of the product, but they're not actually selling the product itself or making the product. They're just kind of like this in-between person for, selling a product from one company that's made it to the person that is actually buying it. And then they're obviously just the launcher as well. But ultimately, the company that takes that payment is responsible for that product. My guess is, well, it's not even a guess, is that their chargeback percentage rate in the last year has gone up. Which, as people sort of look at other people's Steam library, or they may have not disabled a game. I know once someone on my cricket team was mentioning that they went online and their partner's, I think, uncle, that they had their Steam, just, a game called Rape Simulator 2 came up. Prison Rape Simulator 2, actually. So I'll get specific. I don't want to besmirch Rape Simulator 2. It was Prison Rape Simulator 2 came up. So, yeah, and you can imagine it'd be like, oh, what were you doing that? They then deny it. They do a chargeback because they've had it on their system for way too long. Especially if it was like their spouse. And the spouse usually makes them follow through and goes, no, you need to do the chargeback. They get the money back and then everyone feels good about it. Just know that's probably still BS. So what would have happened is their chargeback rate has gone up, which means their overheads have gone up. And because it's a marketplace and they're not responsible for like any of these games, or don't really have any say in it, they would have had pressure from that payment processor itself to say, hey, it's in our terms and conditions that we don't do adult services because of the chargeback rate. Looking at you guys, that's a loophole. We've probably let it go because of the amount of money that was going through, but now they're bringing down the hammer of like, hey, yeah, we need you to stop. We need these on your marketplace to stop coming through because it's adult services. And yeah, it's just because the chargeback rate is astronomical, and I think it's like 20% or something of transactions. Like it's giant. So yeah, it's just literally that. That's all it is. It's just their chargeback rate, and they don't want the overheads, and that's their right to do so. So it's not censorship necessarily, which a lot of people are sort of saying it's censorship. No, it's a business that's just gone, hey, like our risk parameters have increased dramatically here. And again, they're not really, Steam isn't responsible for the game itself, so they'll probably have less wiggle room here. So yeah, they just need to cut it off. Now, if someone wants to make adultgames.com and sign up with a payment processor that will charge an exorbitant rate, so you just need to make sure that you pass that rate on. These games can live elsewhere. It just can't live on Steam. You just can't have these adult services mixed in with normal services for consumers. It just will never work with payment providers. They'll never go down that route just because the chargeback rate is so big. And again, that means that the overheads and the risk parameters just don't line up for them on the money that they make on what would be, they would be on an absolute like bullshit low rate from WorldPay to Steam. So they wouldn't actually make a lot of money from Steam itself. They would make money, but the rate would be so low because of the amount of transactions that are going through. So any change in that risk parameter, they would need to stop that immediately. And adult games is where that stop needs to happen. I think a lot of people also have gone down the route of, well, this is the first step. No, there's nothing about ultraviolence and gaming. I can tell you right now, as someone that went to so many different conferences for this stuff, there's nothing in the realm or anyone even mentioning video game crackdowns or anything like that. It's literally adult entertainment that is the problem for credit card processors, but just because of the chargeback rates, they're just astronomical. Visa, MasterCard couldn't care. They take payments on other platforms that do this just at exorbitant rates to cover the chargeback. So just thought I'd let you know that it isn't people in a boardroom just like, oh, I don't agree with this. Some of these titles that have been banned are pretty fucked up, but whatever your kink is, and I guess if you're not doing it in real life and you're doing it on a computer, that's probably a good thing, right? But some of them were pretty messed up. Those are like some child ones and stuff. But again, if you're not then acting it out in real life, then okay, we're not here to kink shame. If prison sex is the way you want to go, sure. But it's just from a payment processor refund standpoint. That's all it is. That's all it is. And like I said, they're not gonna want to do this. And the other thing I did mention before is if the chargebacks has gone up, that means there's someone there manually going through that, and they probably would have had to hire a few staff to do this, and it's probably just getting more and more, and their workload's getting too much. So they're just like, hey, we're starting to see a trend here. So I think it was 100 games, right? I bet you those 100 games have been charged back a fair few times, and yeah. That's pretty much it. They wouldn't have been going through a fine-tooth comb and just singling out single games. It would have just been a sheet that they just noticed that, hey, Prison Sex Simulator 4 has had a fair few chargebacks, so let's just send that off to Steam and say, hey, we're not letting you sell this anymore, and go from there. And now, obviously, there's a bit more pressure to just say, we just don't want these games going through our payment system anymore, and go from there. And again, it's pretty easy for Steam to just say no to this. It's not really their platform. There can be another platform where all of this can live. But I would say the days of these adult games being on Steam are probably coming to an end. And that's it's not even censorship. They'll just live on another platform, which is fine. They're not, yeah, everyone gets really quick on the censorship word. I just don't think people really understand the business side of it or the back end. They're not telling these games that they can't exist. They just can't exist on this platform under its current market because you can buy like Pokemon Snap on the same platform, and you get a really good payment rate if you're in really good standing. So they would be on like less than 1% surcharge. It'd be nothing, and so they don't want to be paying more fees back. It's a lot easier to just say, no, we just don't want this on our platform. But they'll pop up somewhere. There'll be some platform that will have this. It just obviously won't get as much traffic. But that's okay. This is the way it works. It's the way it works when you have a marketplace website. They're really hard to give payment systems to. Like they were always very difficult just because you don't really do the product yourself. So if like Ubisoft just shuts off a game, that's why when a game shuts off, like Concord, for instance, like PlayStation and Steam have to like issue refunds ahead of time. It's because legally they have to do it, because otherwise they're opening themselves up for chargebacks, and those chargebacks comes with even more fees for them. So it's much cheaper to just do the refund than to go through the chargeback route. Anyway, boring video, but we got more stuff coming down the line on shooters. There's a fair few games coming out this week, so Wildgate, we'll have a review up for that. I'm just working on a review of the new RoboCop game. We did some stuff with Holdfast, so that's coming out. So if that does interest you, then hit the subscribe button. And also, you made it this far on a payment video, hit the subscribe button, because that really does help us out motivation-wise. Comment down below, what are your thoughts on the matter? I hope I explained it well. I hope it was somewhat engaging. I do apologize, it's a very dry topic. I have no idea what the gameplay footage is in the background. I have just grabbed something. I don't know what it is yet. We'll figure it out. And hit the like button, because then it algorithms it to someone else, and then from there they can watch it, and then it algorithms it again, and then it becomes a snowball effect, and more people find us out, because we're only a wee little baby channel. We're fighting against the big boys, and none of them have reported on this properly. So, give a bit of love to me. Anyway, I'm out of here. I'm going to edit this up, cut this up, and get this thing moving. I'm Brenton. This is Redland Live. Thank you so much for watching. I'm out of here. Bye.